The night was colder than usual, and the small village at the edge of the forest felt strangely quiet, almost as if the air itself was holding its breath. The people in the houses slept peacefully, unaware that something far beyond their world was moving closer to Earth. High above the clouds, hidden behind darkness and silence, a bright blue object cut through the sky without making any sound. It moved fast, like a falling star, but sharper, more alive, as if it had a purpose. For a moment, the whole forest lit up in a soft blue glow, and then the light disappeared into the deep trees. No one saw it except one old farmer, who woke up and whispered, "Something has come," before going back to sleep, unsure if he had been dreaming. But it was not a dream. Something had truly arrived. The next morning, 10-year-old Evan walked down the path leading into the forest. He always took this path because it was quiet, peaceful, and full of tall trees that made him feel safe. Evan was a shy kid, gentle and kind, and he liked places where he could think without noise. But today, the forest did not feel peaceful. Instead, it felt strange, almost heavy, as if someone or something unseen was watching him. Evan felt a soft chill run down his neck, but he kept walking, trying to ignore the feeling. The birds that usually filled the trees with sound were silent. Even the wind seemed to avoid the forest that morning. As Evan walked deeper, he heard something unusual, a tiny, weak sound, like a small cry. He stopped immediately. The cry came again, soft but full of fear. Evan's heart started beating faster. He slowly followed the sound, moving through bushes and stepping over fallen branches until he reached a large broken tree lying on the ground. Behind that tree, he saw something that made his eyes widen with shock and confusion. There, curled up and trembling, was a small alien child. The creature was no bigger than Evan. It had delicate glowing blue lines on its skin, like soft light moving under the surface. Its eyes were large, shining with fear and sadness. Its small hands gripped the dirt as if it was too weak to stand. Evan did not know what kind of creature it was, where it came from, or what had happened to it. But he could clearly see one thing. It was scared, hurt, and completely alone. For a moment, Evan felt frozen. He had never seen anything like this in his life. His mind raced. Should he run? Should he scream? But then he looked at the alien child again and saw tears running down its glowing cheeks. It was crying just like any lost child would. Without thinking, without fear, Evan slowly walked closer and sat on the ground a few feet away. He did not want to scare it, so he moved carefully. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his small toy spaceship, something he always carried. It was the only thing he owned that made him feel brave. Evan gently placed the toy on the ground between them and slowly pushed it toward the alien child with a small smile. The alien stopped crying. Its glowing eyes looked at the toy, then at Evan, confused but curious. It reached out a shaky hand and touched the little spaceship. A soft warm light spread from the alien's fingertips, and Evan felt a gentle warmth in the air between them, as if the alien was trying to understand him, trying to trust him. The creature made a tiny sound, almost like a sigh, and its shaking stopped. It looked at Evan again, and something changed in its expression. There was still fear, but also a small hint of safety, comfort, maybe even hope. Evan felt relief. He whispered softly, "It's okay. You're safe." Even though the alien did not understand the words, the calm tone made it relax a little more. But Evan did not know the truth. He did not know that this alien child was not just lost. It had been separated from its people who were powerful, dangerous, and extremely protective. Far above Earth, in the cold darkness of space, 500 alien warriors were already searching for the missing child. They were trained fighters, wearing strong armor and carrying weapons humans had never seen. They had been following the child's energy trail for hours, and they were prepared to destroy anything that threatened it. And now, the child had connected with a human, a bond the warriors would not understand. As Evan slowly stood up and looked around, he felt something strange in the air, a soft vibration he couldn't explain. The alien child looked at the sky and made a worried sound. Evan, confused, asked, "What's wrong?" But the alien only curled closer to him, glowing faintly. High above, unseen by all humans, a massive alien ship locked onto the child's signal. The warriors were coming, and by the next sunrise they would reach Earth. But Evan did not know any of this. He only knew that a scared little creature needed help, and he was not going to leave it alone. He took a deep breath, picked up the toy spaceship, and whispered, "Don't worry, I'll protect you." And the forest, silent and watching, held its breath again, because this simple act of kindness would soon change everything. The night returned slowly, wrapping the village in quiet darkness. But this darkness was not peaceful anymore. It felt heavy, tense, almost alive with hidden movement. Evan sat on the basement floor beside the alien child, who had finally fallen into a deep, tired sleep. Its glow was faint, like a dying candle, but still warm enough to show it was breathing. Evan watched it carefully, worrying more with each passing minute. He knew nothing about alien creatures, but anyone could see that this child needed help more than anything. He wanted to find answers, but he had no one to ask. If he told an adult, they would panic. If he told the authorities, they might take the child away. So Evan kept the secret inside his heart, even though he was just a 10-year-old boy carrying a weight far bigger than himself. Outside, the air felt wrong. The wind did not blow, the trees did not move, and even the insects were silent. It was as if nature was waiting for something huge to arrive. Far above Earth, deep in the cold darkness of space, a massive alien flagship drifted like a silent beast. Inside, glowing screens displayed strange energy patterns, all pointing toward one small blue planet. Alarms pulsed through the halls, and alien warriors rushed to their stations. Commander Rylock stood tall in the center chamber, his silver-blue armor pulsing with power. His eyes glowed with a fierce determination as he studied the signal. "The young one is alive," he said in a voice that echoed through the room. "But the energy is unstable. We must retrieve them immediately." His second-in-command bowed. "Shall we prepare the warrior division?" Rylox nodded slowly. "All 500. No delay." The warriors moved with perfect discipline, carrying weapons that hummed with light, gathering inside giant drop pods shaped like metallic dragons. Each warrior was trained to protect their young at any cost. To them, the child was not just important, it was sacred. And now, that child was on a planet filled with unknown dangers. They did not know it was safe with Evan. They only knew one thing: anyone near the child would be treated as a threat. Back on Earth, in a government research station many miles away, scientists stared silently at their radar screens as strange signals flashed again and again. A young technician whispered, "This isn't coming from Earth. This is coming from space." The room suddenly filled with alarm. Officers shouted orders, computers scrolled red warnings, and phones rang non-stop. Satellites detected hundreds of unknown objects moving fast toward Earth. Too fast, too organized, too powerful. Military teams were sent to high alert. Drones and jets prepared for deployment. No one knew if this was an attack or an arrival, but everyone feared the worst. The only thing they knew was that something extraordinary and possibly dangerous was on its way. Evan knew nothing about the chaos happening outside his small world, but he felt the tension growing. Every few minutes, the ground seemed to give a tiny tremble, so soft he could barely notice, but enough to make his heart beat faster. The alien child suddenly woke up, breathing quickly. Its body glowed bright white, the color Evan had learned meant fear. It grabbed Evan's sleeve and looked toward the basement window, eyes wide and shaking. Evan whispered, "What's wrong?" But the alien could not speak. Instead, it moved closer to him, hiding its face against his arm like a scared toddler. Evan hugged it gently, saying, "It's okay, I'm here." But even he could feel something coming closer, something massive, like a storm building above the clouds. At that moment, deep space shifted. The alien fleet entered Earth's atmosphere silently, their ships camouflaged against the sky. No sound, no explosion, just a ripple through the clouds. The warriors were coming fast, following the child's signal like wolves tracking a heartbeat. Commander Rylox looked down at the planet and growled softly, "Hold on, little one. We are near." His voice sounded calmer than his heart felt. He had failed to protect the child once. He would not fail again. Meanwhile, down in the quiet village, Evan heard a strange low hum in the sky. It wasn't like plane engines or thunder. It was deeper, more powerful, almost like the sky itself was vibrating. He went to the basement window and peeked outside. The clouds were moving strangely, swirling in slow circles as if pulled by something above them. The alien child trembled and covered its ears from the vibration. Evan quickly closed the window and sat beside it again, confused and afraid. "Is your family looking for you?" he whispered. The alien blinked softly, its eyes filling with tears. That was enough of an answer. Evan wiped its tears and said, "They'll find you. I know they will." What neither of them knew was that someone else had heard the alien's earlier signal too. Not friends, not warriors, but dangerous people who hunted rare creatures for money. These hunters were already tracking the energy readings, moving closer to the village. They drove in silence, wearing dark gear, whispering into radios. "The alien child is somewhere in this area," their leader said. "Find it before anyone else does." Their truck's tires rolled quietly on the dirt road as they entered the village, hidden by the night. Back in the basement, Evan felt another tremble under the floorboards. The alien child held his hand tightly. Evan whispered, "I won't let anything happen to you." But the truth was terrifying. Outside, in the dark sky, 500 alien warriors were descending. And on the ground, a group of dangerous hunters were getting closer and closer to Evan's home. The storm he had sensed all day was finally arriving from both above and below, ready to collide in a way he never could have imagined. Tomorrow morning, everything would change. Night covered the village like a dark blanket, but Evan felt no comfort in it. The air outside had changed. It felt sharp and heavy, like a storm waiting to explode. He sat beside the alien child in the basement, listening carefully. The child clung to his arm, glowing a nervous pale blue, the color Evan now recognized as fear. He wished he could understand its thoughts, but the creature spoke only in soft hums and tiny gestures. Evan whispered, "It's okay," trying to calm the child, but even he didn't fully believe his own words now. Something in the air was wrong. Something dangerous was moving closer. The strange hum in the sky had faded, replaced by a deep silence that felt even more threatening. It was the kind of silence the world makes before something terrible arrives. Far from the house, down a dark country road, the headlights of a large black truck cut through the night. Inside the truck sat 4 men dressed in heavy dark gear, their faces hidden behind masks. These men were not soldiers or scientists. They were hunters who sold rare creatures for money. They had tracked the alien child's energy signal for hours. Their leader, a tall man with sharp eyes, kept checking a glowing scanner on his wrist. The device blinked every few seconds, showing the alien child's energy trail growing stronger as they approached the village. "We're getting close," he said quietly. The others nodded, loading strange metal traps and stun weapons. They didn't care whose child it was, human, alien, or something else. All they cared about was profit, and a living alien could be worth millions. As they drove deeper into the village, even the streetlights seemed to dim, as if warning them to turn back. But they did not stop. In the basement, Evan suddenly heard a distant crunch, soft, but sharp enough to cut through the silence. It sounded like a car wheel rolling over gravel. His heart jumped. He pressed his ear to the floor, trying to listen better. The alien child sat up, its glow turning a brighter white, the color of intense fear. Evan whispered, "Did you hear that?" But the child only shook, trembling violently. Another sound followed, a car door shutting quietly. This time Evan knew it wasn't his imagination. Someone was outside. Someone was walking toward the house. His breath caught in his throat. He had no idea who it was, but every instinct in his body told him to stay silent. He gently put his finger over his lips to signal the alien child. It nodded weakly, trying to stop shaking. Up above, the hunters moved through the night like shadows. They didn't speak. They didn't shine flashlights. They approached Evan's house with the confidence of men who had done this many times before. The leader checked his scanner again. The screen showed a bright pulsing dot right beneath the house. "The alien is here," he whispered. "In the basement." The other three spread out, circling the house like wolves preparing to trap prey. One of them quietly tested the basement door and smirked. "Unlocked," he whispered. Two men moved into position, stun weapons ready. Down below, Evan heard the basement door handle click gently. His heart froze. Footsteps followed. Slow, careful, silent. Evan quickly pulled the alien child behind a stack of boxes, covering it with an old blanket. The child clutched his hand tightly, glowing bright white now, terrified. Evan whispered, "Hide. Please. Don't make a sound." The alien nodded, tears filling its glowing eyes. The basement door creaked open. A tall dark figure stepped inside. Evan held his breath. He hoped maybe it was his mother returning early, but the figure moved differently, too slow, too controlled, too quiet. The man scanned the room with a small glowing device, muttering under his breath. Another man stepped in behind him. They examined the floor, the walls, and then the boxes. One of the hunters whispered, "The signal is strongest here. It's hiding." He pointed to the stack of boxes where Evan and the alien were concealed. Evan felt his entire body go cold. He knew he had only seconds to act. If they found the alien child, they would take it away. They might hurt it. They might hurt him. He could not allow that. Even though he was just a small boy, something fierce rose inside him. He stepped out from behind the shadows and said loudly, "There's nothing here. Go away." His voice trembled but held a small spark of bravery. The men froze, surprised to see a child in the basement. The leader stared at Evan with cold, calculating eyes. "Where is it?" he asked calmly. Evan shook his head. "Nothing is here. Please leave." The hunter stepped closer. "We're not here to hurt you. We just need the creature." Evan's heart pounded. "There's no creature," he insisted. But one of the hunters noticed a faint glow coming from behind the boxes. "There," he whispered sharply. "It's behind him." The men moved fast. Evan shouted, "Stop!" and tried to block their path, but he was pushed aside roughly. The boxes were thrown away. The blanket was pulled off. The alien child screamed, glowing bright with terror. One hunter raised a stun weapon. At that exact moment, the sky outside exploded with blue light. A thunderous shockwave shook the entire house. The hunters stumbled, dropping their weapons. Evan grabbed the alien child and shielded it with his body. Dust fell from the ceiling as the entire structure shivered. Outside, the clouds split open as a massive shadow descended from above. 500 alien warriors had finally arrived. But they were not the first to reach Evan's home. And now, two different threats were about to collide. The next morning came with a strange and heavy silence, the kind that made even the birds stop singing. Arin woke early, his eyes still tired but his mind sharp with worry. He quickly checked on Lira inside the small storage room, and she slept curled like a tiny star, her soft breathing glowing with faint blue light. He whispered her name, and her eyes slowly opened. She smiled weakly, but there was fear in her face, fear that had grown stronger since last night. Arin felt it too. Something was coming. He could almost feel it in the air. He hurried outside, and the moment he stepped out, he understood why everything felt wrong. On the ground near the barn were strange marks, long burns in the dirt, as if something heavy and hot had landed silently during the night. Arin's heart dropped. Someone had been here. Someone had been searching. He quickly covered the marks with old hay and wooden planks, hoping no one from the house would notice. Then he rushed back inside and found Noah sitting on the floor, head in hands, breathing fast. Arin asked what happened, and Noah lifted his face slowly. His eyes were wide with fear. "I heard voices," Noah whispered. "Not human voices. They were outside the window at midnight, whispering." Arin felt cold from head to toe. He asked what they said, but Noah shook his head. "I couldn't understand the words, but it felt like they were calling something, or someone." The brothers shared a look, A silent moment of truth. They were not alone anymore. The galaxy Lira came from had found Earth, or at least had found her. Arin went to Lira and quietly explained everything. Her glowing eyes widened, and she sat up quickly, hugging her knees. She had been trying to stay brave, but now the fear finally broke through her calm face. She told Arin and Noah something she had been hiding. Her people were peaceful, but there were other alien groups who were not. These other groups had been fighting for power, and Lira had escaped from them. If they found her, they would take her back. Not because she did something wrong, but because she was special to them. Noah didn't understand and asked why. Lira hesitated, then touched the crystal in her chest. It glowed bright blue, brighter than before. She said her crystal could send signals across great distances. If someone wanted to track her, they would follow the crystal's energy. Arin froze. That meant the aliens had found her trail. It meant the danger was not coming. It was already here. Arin needed a plan, and he needed it fast. He told Noah to stay with Lira while he searched the area. Noah agreed, but Arin could see the fear hidden behind his brave expression. Arin walked around the house, the barn, and even the tall cornfield behind the farm. Everything seemed normal, but that only made the fear worse. If someone could move silently in the night, they could hide in daylight too. As he checked behind the barn, he found something chilling. 3 long silver threads stuck to the wall. They looked like pieces of metal hair, thin but sharp at the ends. Arin pulled one off carefully, and the moment he touched it, it vibrated with a strange humming energy. It was not from Earth. He backed away slowly, his mind racing. Someone had already been close, too close. He ran back inside and told Noah and Lira what he found. Lira's face turned pale, and she said those silver threads were used by the hunters, aliens who traveled in small, stealthy ships. Hunters never traveled alone. They always worked in groups of 3 or 4. That meant more of them were nearby, hiding somewhere around the farmhouse. Noah panicked, asking what they should do, but Arin forced himself to stay calm. He told them they had to move Lira somewhere safer, somewhere the hunters would not expect. Lira said the forest behind the farm had a deep cave where her damaged pod had crashed. The metal inside the pod could block her crystal's energy, at least for some time. It was their only chance. They waited until the sun was high, pretending to live normally so no one or nothing would suspect their plan. When the time felt right, Arin signaled them. Noah helped Lira put on a coat and a hood to hide her glowing skin. The 3 of them quietly slipped out the back door and rushed toward the forest. Every step felt like an echo in Arin's chest. Every sound made him look over his shoulder. Lira walked fast despite her small size, her eyes scanning the trees nervously. They were close to the cave when something made Noah stop suddenly. He pointed to the ground. Footprints. 3 sets. Deep, heavy, fresh. Arin's heart pounded. The hunters were already here. And worse, they were ahead of them. Arin grabbed Lira's hand and whispered that they had to run. They sprinted through the trees, branches scratching their arms, dry leaves crunching under their feet. They reached the cave and Lira guided them inside. Her pod was there, broken and half covered in dust. The moment she touched it, the dark cave lit up with soft blue light. Arin and Noah stood close, breathing hard. But outside, footsteps echoed. Slow, careful, and getting closer. The hunters had followed. They were surrounded. And all Arin could think was, how far will he go to protect someone who isn't even human, but feels like family now? The cave grew colder as the sounds outside became clearer, slow, heavy footsteps that echoed like metal pressing against stone. Arin, Noah, and Lira huddled close near the broken pod. The soft blue light from Lira's crystal bathing the cave walls in a trembling glow. Arin felt his heartbeat rise to his throat, each beat louder than the last. Noah stood beside him, trying to look brave, but his fingers shook. Lira's small glowing hands pressed against the pod, and her voice was barely a whisper. She said the hunters were closer now, and they were trying to scan the cave. The pod's metal would block some of the energy, but not for long. Arin knew they had no more time to hide. He had to think fast, even though fear was clawing at his chest. He told Noah to stay behind the pod with Lira and promised he would protect them both. Noah tried to argue, but Arin gave him a look, one that said he needed him to be strong. The footsteps grew louder, and then the cave entrance darkened as three tall shapes appeared. Their bodies were thin but strong, covered in smooth silver armor that shimmered like cold light. Their eyes glowed red, sharp and unfriendly. They moved with slow, controlled steps, as if they were certain that nothing could stop them. One of the hunters lifted a hand, and in its long fingers was a weapon that hummed with strange energy. Arin's breath caught. These beings were nothing like Lira. They were built for one purpose, tracking and taking. The hunters scanned the cave, their eyes moving like sharp beams. When they spotted Arin, they stopped. One of them spoke in a low, metallic voice, a language Arin could not understand. But he knew exactly what it wanted: Lira. Arin stepped forward slowly, putting himself between the hunters and the pod. His legs shook, but he held his ground. Noah gasped softly behind him, terrified for his brother. The lead hunter tilted its head as if confused why a human child stood in its way. Then it spoke again, this time in broken English, its voice scratching like metal on stone. "Give the star child." Arin took a deep breath and said no. His voice wavered but did not break. He said the girl was scared, hurt, and alone. She wasn't a threat to anyone. The hunters watched him silently, their glowing red eyes unblinking. After a moment, the lead hunter raised its weapon again. The air around it vibrated with a low hum. Arin felt fear rise like fire, but he did not move. He knew running would only make things worse. Suddenly, Lira stepped out from behind the pod, her small figure glowing brightly. Noah whispered her name in fear, but she shook her head. She did not want Arin to get hurt because of her. She walked forward with trembling steps until she stood beside him. The light from her crystal grew brighter, spreading across the cave like rising dawn. The hunters stiffened, their armor reacting to her energy. One of them stepped back, as if the light was too strong. Lira lifted her hands and spoke in her own language, soft, scared, but brave. Her voice echoed like a gentle melody. Arin didn't understand the words, but he felt their meaning. She didn't want to fight. She wanted peace. But the hunters did not care for peace. The leader aimed its weapon directly at Lira, and the cave filled with a rising, dangerous hum. Arin acted without thinking. He grabbed a large metal rod from the ground and swung it with all his strength. The rod hit the hunter's arm with a loud crack, and the weapon was knocked aside, firing a bright bolt into the cave wall. Sparks flew and the ground shook. The other two hunters reacted instantly, stepping forward with fast, sharp movements. Arin stumbled back, but Lira grabbed his arm, her crystal glowing so bright it hurt his eyes. A sudden pulse of blue energy burst from her chest like a wave. It washed over the cave, pushing the hunters back with a loud crackling sound. The hunters slid across the stone floor, their armor flickering with static. They stood again quickly, but something had changed. They looked at Lira not with anger, but with caution. She was stronger than they had expected, but the energy pulse had weakened her. She fell to her knees, breathing hard, her light dimming fast. Noah rushed to her and held her steady. Arin stood in front of them again, even though his arms felt weak. The hunters began slowly moving forward once more, but then a loud rumble echoed from outside the cave. All three hunters froze. Arin and Noah looked toward the entrance, their hearts racing. A bright blue light flashed outside, and suddenly the entire cave mouth filled with a huge shadow. A ship, round, glowing with blue-white lines, hovered outside the cave, its engines humming like a calming wind. A voice, smooth and warm, echoed inside the cave in Lira's language. Lira's eyes widened in shock and hope. She whispered one word, "My people." The hunters stepped back slowly, their bodies tense. They knew this new arrival changed everything. Arin and Noah watched as a tall figure stepped out from the ship, surrounded by soft blue light. It was another alien, but peaceful-looking, gentle, and calm. And they had come for Lira. The tall figure stepped into the cave with slow, calm steps, the blue light around them glowing like soft moonlight. Arin, Noah, and Lira stared in silence. The figure's face was gentle, with bright silver eyes that reflected kindness instead of fear. Their long white robe moved like flowing water, and on their chest was the same glowing crystal symbol Lira carried. The moment Lira saw it, her small body trembled, not with fear, but with deep relief. She whispered something in her language, her voice shaking. The tall being raised a hand and spoke back in the same gentle tone. Arin could not understand the words, but he felt the warmth in them. It sounded like someone calling a lost child home after a long, painful night. The hunters turned sharply, their posture tense, as if they were facing a powerful enemy. The tall being stepped in front of Arin and Noah, protecting them without hesitation. A wave of blue energy flowed out from them like wind. Arin felt it pass over his skin, soft, warm, safe. The hunters stepped back, shrinking from the light. Their red eyes dimmed, and for the first time, Arin sensed fear in them. The tall being spoke again, this time in a deeper voice, like a command. The hunters exchanged glances. They seemed to argue silently. Then, slowly and unwillingly, they backed away toward the mouth of the cave. Their weapons lowered, their armor flickering with damaged energy. One hunter looked back at Lira for a long moment, almost confused, perhaps surprised by her power. Then they disappeared into the dark forest, their metallic steps fading into nothing. For the first time, silence filled the cave. Lira swayed, exhausted. The blue glow around her flickered weakly. The tall being rushed to her side and knelt, placing a hand over her small crystal heart. Light flowed from their hand to hers, brightening Lira's glow again. She gasped softly as strength returned to her. Noah let out a shaky breath of relief. Arin felt his knees weaken from everything that had happened. The tall being looked at the boys and suddenly, their voice changed. It softened, like gentle wind speaking English for the first time. "Thank you," they said slowly, carefully forming the words. Their voice was calm and warm. "You protected her, when you had no reason to." Arin swallowed hard. He said she was alone, scared, and needed help. It didn't feel right to leave her. The tall being's eyes softened even more, and they bowed their heads slightly. Not as a king or leader bowing to another leader, but as someone truly grateful. Lira reached out and held Arin's hand with her small glowing fingers. Arin felt warmth spread through his chest. They had saved her, and now her people had come. The tall being stood and motioned toward the cave entrance. The boys followed slowly. Outside, the huge alien ship hovered low, its engines humming quietly. Light blue dust floated in the air like glowing snowflakes. The night sky had changed. Stars shimmered brighter, as if watching the moment. Lira walked up the ramp toward the ship but then stopped. She turned and looked back at Arin and Noah with wide, emotional eyes. Her small hands clutched the toy Noah had given her, the same toy that started everything. She walked back down the ramp and stood in front of Arin. Her voice shook as she spoke a few soft words in her language. The tall being stepped closer and translated. She says, "You gave her hope when she felt lost, and she wants to stay, if you will allow." Arin froze. Noah gasped. Lira wanted to stay on Earth? The tall being explained softly that Lira's world was far away, but she had sensed something in Arin and Noah. A kindness, a bravery, a warmth she had never known before. She felt safe with them, like they were her family. The tall being said Lira was young, still learning her power. She needed guidance, safety, and love, and she believed she had found that here. But the choice was not theirs alone. It also belonged to the boys. Arin looked at Noah. Noah's face showed confusion, fear, surprise, but also happiness. Arin turned back to Lira. She looked scared again, as if afraid they would reject her. Arin took a deep breath. He kneeled so he could look into her glowing eyes. He said she was already part of their lives. She wasn't a stranger. She was their friend, their family. If she wanted to stay, they would protect her. Lira's face lit up with a bright, warm glow. She threw her small arms around Arin and Noah, hugging them tightly. The tall being smiled, a soft, proud smile. They said they would respect Lira's choice, but they would return often to check on her and protect this world if danger ever came again. The ship's light dimmed as the tall being stepped inside. Before leaving, they turned back to the boys and said, "You did something rare today. You showed bravery without fear, kindness without reward. This world is stronger because of you." The ship rose silently into the sky, glowing brighter until it disappeared among the stars. Lira stood between Arin and Noah, holding their hands, her crystal shining softly with peace and joy. The night felt warmer, safer. The danger was gone. But something new had begun. A bond between worlds, born from a simple act of kindness. The morning sun rose slowly over the quiet village, casting soft golden light over the trees, the fields, and the little wooden house where everything had changed forever. Arin, Noah, and Lira sat together on the porch, the warmth of the sun mixing with the glow still faintly radiating from Lira's crystal. After the night of fear, chaos, and bravery, everything felt calm, almost unreal. But each of them knew that life would never be the same. Lira's small hand rested in Arin's, and he could feel the faint hum of her heart crystal, steady and strong now. Noah leaned against her, still half in disbelief at what had happened. The alien warriors had vanished into the sky, the hunters had disappeared, and the tall being had returned to space. But their presence lingered in the air, in the feeling of protection and wonder that the boys could not shake. Lira looked at them, her wide glowing eyes filled with happiness and trust, and for the first time, she smiled freely without fear. Arin smiled back, feeling a mix of pride and relief. The toy spaceship that had started it all lay between them on the wooden porch, a reminder that a small act of kindness had led to something far bigger than any of them could have imagined. The forest behind the house was still and quiet, yet it no longer felt threatening. Instead, it felt alive with possibility, like it was waiting to see what this new family of three would do next. Lira moved slightly, touching her crystal, and the soft blue light reflected in the boy's eyes. She whispered softly in her language, but this time Arin understood enough to smile. She was saying thank you, not just for the past night, but for believing in her, for protecting her, for seeing her as more than a strange, lost alien. Noah reached over and hugged her gently, and Arin put his arm around both of them. In that moment, the three of them shared something deeper than friendship. They shared courage, trust, and a bond that crossed worlds. They had faced danger together. Aliens, hunters, the unknown. And they had survived not because of weapons or power, but because of kindness and bravery. The village, unaware of the incredible events that had unfolded just beyond its peaceful streets, continued its quiet life. But for Arin, Noah, and Lira, everything had changed. They looked at the sky together, imagining the ships that had once hovered above, the glowing warriors that had protected Lira, and the tall being who had recognized the human heart as worthy of respect. The horizon seemed brighter now, full of possibilities, not just for Earth, but for a friendship that spanned galaxies. Lira hugged the toy spaceship tightly and then handed it back to Arin. It was a gesture of gratitude and trust, a sign that even the smallest gesture could create a ripple strong enough to reach the stars. The boys laughed softly, the tension of the past night melting into warmth and hope. They talked about what they could do next, how they could continue to protect and help each other, and how they would remember the lessons they had learned. Above all, they knew this: courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to do what is right even when afraid. Kindness can change the course of events even across worlds. And friendship, true friendship, is stronger than any weapon. As the sun climbed higher, Lira's glow softened to a calm light, and the boys knew she had made her choice. She would stay on Earth, but she would always remember her people, and she would always be ready if they came back. The world had expanded for them, opening doors to possibilities that they had never imagined, and the alien child who had once been lost had now become a symbol of hope, courage, and the power of empathy. Arin looked at the camera of his imagination, or at the audience, if someone were watching their story, and thought about the message. It doesn't matter how small you are, how young, or how powerless you may feel. Every act of bravery, every gesture of kindness, has the power to change worlds. He realized that sometimes, Heroes are not warriors with weapons. They are children with hearts that refuse to give up, even in the face of fear and the unknown. And just as Lira had found a home with them, so too could anyone who chose to be brave, compassionate, and true to themselves. This was a story of hope, a story that proved the impossible could happen if you believed in goodness. And it was a story meant to inspire everyone who watched it. So, if you enjoyed witnessing this adventure, if you felt your heart beat faster with every twist and every moment of suspense, if you believed in the power of kindness and courage, then please, take a moment to like this story, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing HFY and sci-fi adventures. Every click supports these stories, keeps them alive, and spreads their message across the world. Remember, even a small action, like a human child giving a toy to a lost alien, can create ripples across galaxies. Never underestimate the power of empathy, courage, and friendship. The universe is bigger than we think, but our hearts are bigger still. And with that thought, Arin, Noah, and Lira watched the sun fully rise, ready to face the new day together, stronger, braver, and bound by a friendship that no danger could ever break.